going to get back to readings shortly. There's a theme that's been going around that I want to talk about, and I'm recognizing it in a lot of the people that I love right now, and it's the outward expression of anger is becoming very potent, more and more. And there are so many reasons why for people to be angry. And I think that one of the biggest things is when we do not allow ourselves to witness the thoughts that create that anger, and witnessing those thoughts, recognizing within those thoughts what is it, because the thoughts that we have create the emotions in our body. And the emotions in our body are what? It's energy in motion, right? Emotion. And so whatever it is that's going on up here is going to create what's going on in here. And that's why it's so very important these days to be self-aware and to learn who you are at a core level, because the world is so angry that if we don't know our own identity and we don't know who we are for ourselves, we latch onto that. We believe that we're identifying with that. And it's not necessarily the thing on the outside that has created that anger. It's only triggered a part of us. I get angry about a lot of things that are happening in the world, but I also know that the only thing that I have control over is myself. The only thing that I have control over is the way that I react to the anger that is boiled up inside of me based on the thoughts. And a lot of the thoughts that create that anger come from, not a lot of thoughts, most of them, 99% of them come from the outside world. There are so many things that I could choose to be angry about in my own personal life. Let's just break it down to our own personal lives. When you think about something from your childhood, and it's a memory from your childhood, and maybe it's a memory that you buried for a really long time, because during that moment of your childhood, it was so traumatic that your brain decided, I don't want to remember this. This is not something that I remember. And that happens a lot to people, like when they're going through hypnosis or something like that, and childhood memories that have been buried that were extremely traumatic, they start to come out. And when we remember stuff like that, it's a new rush of anger. It's a whole new wave that comes over us, right? And the healing process that in order to take responsibility for that, and the healing process that we have to go through for that, is our problem, and it's nobody else's. We can place blame on whatever happened to us to create that anger from that long ago, or we can choose to accept that it is what happened and allow ourselves to process all of the emotions that we buried because we didn't allow ourselves to process it in the beginning. We were only children. How are we supposed to do that, right? And then, as we become adults and we are very much immersed in this world, and especially now, after years of restriction, right, because of a pandemic going on, after years of not paying attention to the vulnerable, after years, and just, we could talk about this for forever, right? What is wrong with the world? What is wrong with this country? What is wrong with all the things? Da 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 da. We could talk about all that. We could talk about what was wrong that happened last week. We could talk about what's wrong with going on today. The point is, there's always something to be angry about. Everybody has a reason to be angry. Seriously. every single person in this world has a reason to be angry. And every single person in this world has a choice to sit in that anger and to create more anger and frustration out of that, and to project that onto the people they love, therefore alienating the people they love. Or you can choose to witness your thoughts. You can choose to allow those thoughts to process through your body, which is called the emotion of it. And however you do that, I'm somebody who, honestly, when I have feelings about something, it has to be I have to cry. I have to talk about it. I have to cry. I have to get it out of my system. Sometimes I'll go for a drive. It has to be something that is a physical release in some way, shape, or form, because I store so many emotions in my body that if I held on to them, I would continue to be angry. And there are even many people who believe that and this is very true because of the energy that we hold in our body, that the very rare bone marrow cancer that I have was created out of so much anger and so many emotions that I never felt like I was allowed to release growing up, because I always stifled them and threw them down and just held them inside. And that was the creation of it. And whether that is the truth, and that's the thing, is there are so many realities in this multidimensional world that we live in. What I learned to do for myself when it came to my own anger was to recognize why I was angry. Why am I angry? Do I think that life is just unfair? It's a choice. You can choose to sit in the misery of what happens in the world, what happens to you. It's not easy, It's not easy for difficult moments, and it's not easy to have faith and to believe that even through difficult moments, you can still create a life of happiness, and you can still create a life of not suffering. And being angry and not processing that anger creates massive suffering within your body. And it's an epidemic at this point. How angry the world is, how angry we all are, it's an epidemic. So, and taking responsibility of that, that's really that's the only way that you're going to find freedom in it. Because nobody else is creating the suffering moving forward. I'm very adamant about reminding myself that even though all of the things that happen to me in my life, even though all of these things happen, I'm not the victim of it. All of the things that have happened in my life molded me to who I am today, created who I am today. I have a choice every single day, and believe me, the choice that I make every single day was not easy in the beginning, because I make the choice to be happy through chronic pain. I make the choice to be happy through chronic fatigue. I make the choice to be happy through good days and bad days, and sometimes the bad days outweigh the good days. You never know. And that's a choice, because I refuse to keep allowing myself to suffer through things that I have no control over. I refuse to let myself just be sad for the rest of my life. And when I see other people doing that to themselves, it breaks my heart. Because I don't want a life-changing event to happen to other people for them to recognize how they're creating suffering in their life. If your life looks beautiful and all you see is suffering, you're never going to be happy, and you're going to alienate every single person you love, because you're going to project that unhappiness onto everything. And it's not easy to understand the process that goes from your thoughts to your emotions. And I'm not saying that anger is something that we're not supposed to feel, because it's a natural human emotion. Everybody feels anger, everybody feels sadness, everybody feels love, everybody feels joy. We choose what it is that we're going to be feeling based on the thought reaction that we have in any given moment. And when the thought reaction that we have is a trigger and we let that rule us, we can create the anger within our hearts and then project it out onto other people. When you project anger onto other people, screaming, yelling, slamming doors, whatever it is, that is a form of emotional abuse. Period. Because it is not the person's fault, unless that's the person that did something to you to create that anger to begin with. And I guarantee you it probably isn't if it's your, or whatever. But if you are projecting the anger that you feel inside on someone who hasn't done anything to you, you're emotionally and mentally abusing them, because you're manipulating their emotions. You want them to feel bad for you. Expressing anger in an outside way is fine, as long as you are not doing it to someone else. If you need to remove yourself from the space in order for you to express your anger, fine. Go to one of those places where you can, what is it called? A break room or something like that, where you can break all the things and you don't have to clean up afterwards. Find ways to express your anger in a healthy, emotional way. Otherwise, you're going to be alienating everybody that you love. And I mean, I'm talking about this from experience. This is not something that I'm just plucking out of my brain and I'm let me shame everybody into thinking that they're just angry people. When we're not honest with ourselves about it, it gets worse. And the only way that we can control the way that stuff happens in the world is the way that we react to it. We can't control the actual things happening. And the things that trigger you, maybe you need to be on that stuff so that you can be triggered and process it. But if you're being triggered and then you're swallowing that emotion, or you're being triggered and you're projecting it onto someone else, you're not processing it. That's not the way that you process anger, by outwardly expressing to another person who didn't do anything to you. So, excuse me, and it's a fine line. It's a very fine line to do that. Part of the reason why I think that this world is angry is because we have a certain idea in our heads of the way that we're supposed to act, the way that we're supposed to look, the way that we're supposed to live. And a lot of times when we are not living our truth, we're not living in our own authenticity, when we're not being honest with ourselves, that can also trigger a lot of the anger, because that anger is not the authentic part of you, and it really wants to come out of you. It doesn't want to sit there and fester inside of you anymore. So being really kind to yourself in those moments and recognizing, because, a big part of processing anger is the shame and guilt that we feel about feeling what we feel, or the shame and guilt about whatever it was, the thought process that we had that created the anger to begin with, and then the shame and guilt that we feel after we've reacted poorly. And the cycle continues and you beat yourself up. So during this time when people are really super angry and aggressive about basically anything that's going on, reminding yourself that the outward expression of anger is the thing that can get you in trouble with yourself and with other people. and that it's okay to process it, but it's not okay to make it somebody else's problem or place the blame on someone else when it wasn't their fault that they did it, you know? Okay, I've just recognized that was a theme, and I wanted to talk with you guys about it. So there are a lot of different ways to walk through the anger process and expressing your emotions. I have a few mindful coaching sessions available in June if you feel like you need to kind of talk yourself through some of the things that you're working through. I think not being hard on yourself and just taking responsibility for your actions are going to be really big ways for all of us to understand that we're all in the same boat here. And you know, no one person's life is more tragic than anyone else's that's going on right now. Everybody is going through something. So I love you all. Please take care of yourselves, especially as we get closer to mid-June when we have that Mars-Chiron conjunction happening. That's going to bring out a lot of angry triggers if you're not paying attention to it under the Sagittarius full moon. Again, readings are coming. I'll be making an announcement about readings later on as well. They're going to look a little bit different because my energy levels, I have to watch them. I think I'm just going to be doing zodiac readings. No, not zodiac, astrology. Just looking at the astrology for each of the zodiac signs for the month coming. So things are going to look a little bit different moving forward as we continue to get settled into just like a new phase. Everybody's going through a new phase. That eclipse season brought us all into a new phase. So I love you all. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you soon. Bye.